Hello everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing for you The Plot Thickens, a storytelling card game, and there will be a brand new edition of this game coming out at UK Games Expo later this month. So what a perfect time to jump in, tell you a bit about the game, let you know if it's going to be for you with some pros and some cons, and thanks to Bright Eye Games for sending me this review copy. Regardless of which version you go for, romance, detective, sci-fi, or the new and upcoming adventure box, you're going to be crafting a story with your friends around the table. While there are point tokens to earn and spend throughout the game, you are going to be cooperating to tell an interwoven story between the players. At the start of the game, you're going to be creating a character in your head from one of two person cards that you're passed. Then the one you don't pick is just going to be shuffled back into the deck and, well, you keep your current person hidden until you start telling your story. Then players are going to be dealt 5 cards, 1 person, 2 places and 2 things. They're going to be what you're going to be starting your chunk of the story off as you go through various chapters. You're going to have, in a short game, it suggests 3 chapters and a long game 6, though you could definitely do 5, 10, 7, whatever you kind of fancy. And technically you could also decide partway through, we're enjoying this, let's just do 1 more chapter. But how does it kind of work on a turn? Well, you are in the first chapter going to be mostly just playing cards from your hand. And then in subsequent chapters, utilising cards from your hand as well as cards that your teammates, your co-writers, have also already played. So if you're the one starting the story off, you've most recently read a book, you are going to be looking at your cards, keeping in mind the character that you've sort of created in your head at the very beginning of setup, and from that person's perspective you're going to be starting to tell chapter 1. Almost as if everyone is writing a chapter of where they are, where their person is starting, maybe what they've seen, maybe even something bringing up from their past. And again, this could be in a romance, a detective style mystery, it could be in sci-fi, or soon with these characters going on a grand adventure. Using the words on your cards, you can craft a few sentences to be your chunk of the story. Maybe you are a bartender, maybe you are a call girl, a detective, a mutant. Depending on which box you're using, or if you've shuffled things up, you could have a very different character set up from different people. And you can also use those word cards in very cool ways. You could have a key, for instance. That could be a literal key to a door. It could be a key bit of information. It could be a key to someone's heart. Utilising these words in weird and potentially wonderful ways, you're going to be crafting your bit of the story. Then, when you've used probably 3 or 4 of your cards, but maybe even all 5, you're going to end your few sentences of story with "meanwhile," and then the play moves on to the next person to, from their character's perspective, start their chunk of the story. And you are crafting one story. You're trying to start off with the characters a little separate, but then interweave them into one story. I did, however, mention that there were points and point tokens, and for every one of those cards that you played in round 1, 2, 3, etc., you are going to be actually taking point tokens from your supply for you to use in future rounds. So the story has that beginning, but now let's move into the middle. And what are you doing with those point tokens? You can still earn more by playing word cards from your hand, and between rounds you will draw back up either to 5 or just drawing at least 3 cards from the draw piles. So you can earn more, but how do you spend them? How do you use them? And what are they then going to be good for? Well, while you're interweaving the stories, if you start to use the words that other players have played out, maybe talking about their character's motorcycle, well, you take one of your earned point tokens and place it on their card. Once everyone's finished that final round, the story is not complete. You can't wrap it up yet, because you then determine who is going to finish the story. Those point tokens that you've placed out, whoever's placed the most out, they actually sort of wrap it up. They get a few sentences to finish the story off. Still, obviously, keeping it involved with the story that everyone was telling, but they can determine if that person escapes, if the detective catches them up, if the couple fall in love, or maybe they got to the airport but the plane had already taken off. Not a great end to a romance, but still an end to the story that was crafted. And then a nice little twist, extra, whoever had the most point tokens placed onto their cards by other players, they get to then name the story that you've all crafted. And that is how you craft a story in the Plot Thickens, how those points work and how you can wrap things up. And hopefully everyone around the table has had fun crafting and storytelling. But will this be a game for you? Well, I was very fortunate to have a review copy that had some romance, detective and sci-fi cards in there. So not only have we been able to play one style, we've been able to mix it up and combine the decks because, well, you fully can. How does that all sort of play out? Well, let's talk first of all about the storytelling. I think this is one of those games that if you're the right person in the right mindset, you are going to absolutely love it. Because I think there's people out there like me who like crafting a story, be that like a D&D story, be that just coming up with a bit of narrative about a game or something that otherwise maybe doesn't have that theming or something there. And here, you craft whatever story you want with the other players around the table, of course, from your cards. Now, you can have it where different people maybe want to take the story in different directions. You kind of have to go in with the, rather than a no or a but, you have to go with the yes and approach of keeping things flowing, agreeing that this thing has been said by another player, it's fact, and what do we do with that information? If you wanted that character not to fall off their motorbike or something, well, you can't undo that. But what you could do is say in your part of the story, maybe, oh, I've got the word hospital. I can say they got better in hospital and they've left. And then the story is carrying on in maybe not the same way that was expected after someone crashed, but you still have that ongoingness and you have the story actually still interwoven and connected. Some people will not vibe with that. They will sort of get a bit flustered. They will get a bit embarrassed thinking up on the spot from their cards, what should I say? I don't want to muck this up. But just say to them, like, we're having fun here. It doesn't matter. Let's just tell a story together. And I think you can have a lot of fun. But there will be people that just don't feel comfortable storytelling like this. So if that's you, maybe this wouldn't be a game for you. But for those that do like crafting stories or doing something as a group, a drama style group or something like that, this could be a hell of a good experience for you. Coming from having the different versions, let's definitely touch on that. There's two that I think work really well together. I think romance on its own, you can craft a romance, almost rom-com. You could go for a painful romance that doesn't quite happen. From the detective, once you've got the detective mindset, even the romance starts getting like people dying off or murdered or whatever, or different things like that. I really was drawn to the detective side of things. And then you have sci-fi. That was the hardest to incorporate. Now, there was plenty of words in the sci-fi deck, like computer and things like that, that you can definitely use. Oh, the detective looks something up on the computer to find that a bit of information, that key information to crack the case. Or maybe they had to sneak into a victim's place to look at their computer to find out who they'd been talking to find out who did it. That sort of thing. You can use that. But when it comes to words like maybe mutant or something like that that's in the sci-fi box, it makes it harder to in any way get that into one of the other stories. It's not impossible, but I did find the detective and the romance cards merged a bit easier and a bit friendlier to everyone around the table, rather than being like, oh, these cards work together and then I've got this one sci-fi one that doesn't work. Again, it's not like all the sci-fi words, like computer is the best example. That's one of the sci-fi words that's not really sci-fi. It doesn't need to be in any context, but detective and romance, and I'm sure adventure is going to fit nicely in there as well. I think those two, romance and detective, merged really nicely. While this is a cooperative storytelling game, you do have that thing of points and the fact that, well, if I get the most of my point tokens out there, I get to finish the story off. And you can therefore get some people trying to shoehorn things in. And one thing I didn't explain earlier, when I was sort of giving the overview, is there is such a thing in this game as writer's block. And we kind of use this for also writer's shoehorning. If sort of unanimously everyone else around the table thinks, that word doesn't really work, doesn't really fit, you're stretching a bit too much there, everyone can basically go, writer's block, you are, as long as everyone unanimous, or at least the majority I think it is, says, yeah, you've used a word that you're stretching so much it doesn't really fit. If everyone mostly agrees, you do have to sort of pick it back up and go, okay, my turn's over, meanwhile, and the next person goes. To be honest, we didn't find we needed to. Everyone really was trying to keep within the story, trying to not tread on toes, but add their own little bits of flair and fun to the story. When it comes to playtime, the rulebook actually suggests if you're playing with a number of players, and it does go above the 4-player count if you start including additional content, sort of shuffling 2 boxes together, or you could just maybe work with pairs. It does suggest if you are working with more players, then keep the chapter count down. I was quite actually happy. I think we always played with 3 chapters. And that's quite nice. You get the beginning, you get the middle, you get the almost end, and then the final wrap up from whoever did the most point tokens. And that always felt enough. We never found too much that it was like, oh, we needed a load more chapters to tell this story. But your group might be different. I think we liked the shorter, snappier stories, that something happened, some drama happened, a little bit more unfolded, maybe a mystery, maybe the falling in love, maybe the ship landing on a planet. And then it was wrapped up, and how, almost like for the sci-fi stuff, a Star Trek episode almost of, something happens, they're on a planet, they're in space, and it's fixed. It was very like, something happened, bing, bing, bing. Quite fast-paced storytelling. And you might just find that you want more chapters. You and your group might be like, oh, I definitely need more than 3 chapters. For us, the 3 chapters kept it short, sweet, enjoyable, fun storytelling. But you might want to, not waffle on, but tell grand stories that last over an hour. That's completely up to you. For us, keeping it short, that 30, 40 minutes, 3 rounds, that was a really good timing for us. So my version of the game has an issue that yours probably won't. This is a 1st edition printing of the game, and it says on the box it's for 3 to 4 players. That makes it a little bit trickier for me to get to the table regularly, because I predominantly play 2-player is just the easiest for me to get to the table, and most games you can play at 2, it might be a little bit different, and well, this is the case with the Plot Thickens, because in the 2nd edition the player count is changed to 2 to 4 players. And that's because you can effectively have like a ghost writer, I think is the exact term in the updated rules, and you can therefore use that ghost writer to be able to play a 2-player story. You kind of can anyway, it's just not specifically said in the rules. And I like the fact that you can play with 2. We kind of did anyway, but now there are sort of special rules to help that 2-player experience just be that little bit stronger. So one problem that I had with the game of no sort of official 2-playerness is now fixed, and certainly will be in the brand new A Plot Thickens Adventure Edition, which is going to be released at UK Games Expo. So overall, the Plot Thickens. In general, the romance box, the sci-fi box, the detective box, I think you can have a lot of fun with these. If you're a group of players that just likes that storytelling and working off each other, that yes and attitude rather than no, but that sort of thing. If you can work like that, you can craft some great stories and everyone can have a lot of fun. You're going to know if you're not the sort of person that likes being put on the spot, looking at cards and thinking up, not necessarily something funny, but something that will work with the story that other people are talking and telling. If you're one of those people, you might want to shy away from this, as you might find yourself a bit shy when this game comes out. But also, it could be that little icebreaker for you to get into a game night and sort of get involved and tell that story, because everyone is working together. They can build up the story and you can add your own little flair in there. I've certainly really enjoyed telling stories with this one, and with the additions of such as the 2-player rules, it's only going to be better moving forward. If you had to get one version, personally, I would recommend, I think, the detective one. I just vibe with that, but everyone's going to be a little bit different. Again, if you're going for 2, the romance and detective seem to merge a little bit nicer than the sci-fi into the other versions, but everyone will find things different because you're going to craft your own stories and have fun in your own way. But that is The Plot Thickens. Hopefully this has helped you know if you're going to want to go and play this game. I keep saying it, it's going to be there at UK Games Expo, so you can even demo the brand new version, which sounds pretty cool. People, adventure, there's certainly some stuff that could work with all 3 of the previous boxes already. So go check that out if you're going to the event. And until next time, like, subscribe, all that sort of good jazz, and have a plot-thickeningly good day.